They made me feel like for the first time in my life, I can save up for things. And I can pay for big boy things. Like I can pay for Christmas. I can pay for car repairs. I can pay for home repairs because I was never able to do this in the past. Once we actually acknowledged all of our true expenses, like these are the things we're going to spend money on at some point this year, no matter what. And so let's start saving for them right now. Once we got to that point, everything changed.
How you make it, how you wanna make it, how you make it, how
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Well, today, Ernie, it's a fun day. I think we always love these episodes. We haven't done this in a while, but it's time to go over your categories because you've told me you've made some changes since the last time we just went through them. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you got. So we're just going to go through them.
I am so excited. Like, honestly, I've been thinking about this episode for weeks. Like, just running through my categories. What am I going to say about them? So, and it has been a while. I don't even remember the last time we went through our categories. But yeah, I felt like it was time to do it again.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest change... Actually, let me back up. Let me give you the context of my plan. Okay. So, family of 5... living in the Midwest. You know this, but a lot of the audience maybe doesn't. Right. It's me, my wife, Christy, and we have 3 older boys. 2 of them have graduated high school. 1 is still in school, and we live in the Midwest. So that's kind of where we're coming from.
That's good. Yeah. I don't think we ever really, when we do these episodes, I don't think we really ever give that context. I think it's important. It helps.
It is important. Yeah. Especially as we've been doing more of these interviews with people, you realize, oh, wow, it's totally different on the other side of the country for you than it is for me here in Wisconsin.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. And we're just going to go through, and are you going to talk about like changes to habits and you know, all the procedures too, or are we just focusing on the categories here?
I'm going to talk a little bit about everything. We'll get some targets in there. Maybe we'll talk about some habits. We'll just talk about my thought process for some of these decisions that I've made. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. I think we should just jump right in because no time to waste here.
Let's do it. So high level, 72 categories, 7 groups. I probably should have said that the other way around. 7 groups. 72 categories. This is probably the most categories that I've had in a while.
I think you've expanded because I think you were more like in the 50s last time. Or something like that.
Yeah. So I'll get more into that in a bit.
Wow. So you've really changed things. Yeah, it's not just like a little bit. Like this is a big change. Okay.
And then the other big change is, so we're recording this on December 9th. It's not releasing until January 14th. Mm-hmm. But the categories that you see today, they're going to be my categories in January.
Oh, so you're not using them right now yet. This is like your future planned plan.
No. I'm not making a fresh start. So my plan as is going to carry myself into the new year because you guys know, like I've been doing a fresh start every single year for, I can't even remember how long it's been.
Right.
And then this year I decided, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. And the primary reason is system of record. I really came to appreciate the data a little bit more.
Yeah, and just having it all in one place. Like I still dream of just like a software thing where we could like search everything, like all the plans in one place. That would be awesome. But right now it's not possible. So like breaking it up does matter. So like you're like, oh, what's that restaurant we went to like a year ago? You'd have to like pull up a different plan and search it, and it's not in that one, it's in this one. Yeah, that whole thing.
I've really surprised myself with that. There's so many times throughout the year, and I think it's especially when Christy and I and the family travel, and we're like, oh, what about that restaurant in that city in that year? And then I have to figure out, what year was that, and I have to go and find that old plan, and it would just be nice to have everything all right there in one plan. So we're starting a new trend. One plan.
Fresh starts out. Forget it.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my credit card payment categories. I've just always had those at the top of my plan. And I think it's because, YNAB handles credit cards really differently. And it took me a little bit to get used to how YNAB handles those. And I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And so I was constantly checking what is my account balance and then comparing that to how much do I have available to pay on those credit card accounts? Because I didn't want to be in the credit card float situation. And the software was different back then where you didn't get a notification if your balance got off from what was available to pay on the card. So I was manually checking those regularly. So I think that's why I put them at the top, and I just got used to having my payment categories at the top.
I feel like back in the day when we first went to the web app, I think you couldn't even move it. Like it was at the top and it was just like, nope, you can't move it.
Maybe.
I feel like that was true. I can't remember though, and maybe that's part of why too. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense because like it's a major part of your like financial health is, do I have the cash to back up these credit cards? And you always want to keep an eye on that. So having it up top makes sense.
And I have to confess, my relationship with credit cards is love-hate.
It's complicated.
It is complicated. Like, man, I love the cashback rewards and, the free hotel nights because we have hotel cards. I love that. But I also just hate the complexity. Now, it's not like super difficult to manage credit cards. Actually, YNAB has made it really, really easy, but it is an extra layer. And I go through seasons of life where I'm sick of that extra layer because at heart, I'm a minimalist. And I'm just like, let's just cut out that extra layer. Let's just, when we spend money, let's have it leave the checking account. Let's just use the debit card. But then I always swing the other way where, oh man, I'm so addicted to the cash back and the rewards and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a complicated relationship. But Christy and I have 4 cards. This is probably the fewest we've had in a long time. We each have 2. We both have a Hyatt card. And this is something that we pay for annually because we get hotel points and we haven't paid for a hotel in, it might be decades at this point, at least awesome. A full decade. So it really is. And we've just gotten a lot of benefit from it. So we keep using them. And then we each have basically like a grocery store card. So she has a Discover in her name, and then I'm an authorized user on that. And we use that at our primary grocery store, Woodman's, every single week. And then I have a Costco card. I love my Costco card. Oh my goodness.
I know we know you're a Costco fan.
Holy cow.
For sure.
I get 5% back on Costco gas. I get 4% on gas anywhere. I get 2% on groceries, anything I spend at Costco, 3% on restaurants. And with the cash back on Costco, like Discover, I get cash back every single month. Costco, it's once a year. Yeah. And I think it's every February. So I'm already looking forward to it. All comes in at once, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I could see that being make you like it even more because it feels like, it's just a large amount all at once, right?
Right. Because getting $4 back from Discover is like, oh, okay, well, I get guac at Chipotle with that or something like that. You don't even actually know what it goes towards, but when you get one big chunk, it's like, oh, I'm going to do something very specific.
Even if it
with
works
this.
out to be like $4 a month, if you got like $50 back, it feels, it feels good. Right?
Completely. Yeah. So
is it like Discover and Costco are just for the respective grocery and then Hyatt for everything else? Is that how you do it? Or is it
pretty much? Yeah, because Discover is the exclusive card at the grocery store. It's the only credit card you can use. Otherwise, you have to use debit. So we were just like, well, we're spending the money anyways. We might as well get some cashback rewards from it.
I see.
So yeah,
didn't know that was a thing anymore that stores did having an exclusive.
I know.
Exclusive deal.
And then it also serves as a backup because every so often, there's fraud on one of the cards and it has to be shut down for a week or so until we get the new card. So it is nice having a backup card. So that's why we each have 2. But I completely blame YNAB for my credit card usage.
It makes it so you don't get in trouble.
Honestly,
it makes it simple.
I was bad with credit cards pre-YNAB.
Yeah.
We were completely on the credit card float. We would spend on a credit card, and then we would use future paychecks to pay off those purchases. And then we came to YNAB and we're like, oh, we're doing it backwards. And so we just now we're spending money that we have right now on the credit cards. It's made us really, really good at credit cards. And we're like, oh, we can handle a whole bunch of credit cards. And, so let's maximize rewards and points and cash back. And
yeah, I think it's good. I mean, like, what's pernicious about that was back then you were bad with credit cards, but you thought you were fine, right? Because
oh my
you're paying it off every month, but really you were completely dependent on it because you're behind. And you couldn't, all your income goes to it. So it's just, once you start YNAB, a lot of people get the bad news where they're like, oh, I'm backwards on these cards.
That was my humble brag, is I've never paid interest on credit cards. I thought I was doing the right thing. And then I realized, oh, we're on the float. And thankfully we weren't high volume credit card users at the time. So I don't really remember the exact, but it was probably only making up a few $100s to get off the float instead of a few thousand.
Because the float is the spectrum. Like some people are like, you get the card, you get the bill, or you get your paycheck, and all of your paycheck goes to the bill.
Yes.
And that's it. Like it's like 100% on the float. And then there's some where it's like, oh, it just kind of ties you over for $100 between paychecks. So it just kind of depends.
All right, there's credit card payment categories. Let's move on to the monthly group.
And you have emojis on everything. Did you make that change recently?
Yeah, within the last year.
Have we talked about this? Because you used to do, you had no emojis, and then you put emojis on the category group names.
Yep.
Now you got all these emojis. Yeah, I think we did talk about this. Yeah.
I've mentioned it briefly, and I think just seeing all these social posts and other demo plans from other YNAB personalities, I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool having emojis on all the categories. So I just did it.
It adds some color. It makes it fun. Yeah,
I love it now. I absolutely love it.
Still just one, though. You're not going. That's the next step, Ernie, is you need to like tell little stories with your emojis like I do.
Okay, I don't know if I'll get there, but there is one category that is allowed 2 emojis, and there's only one. I'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, don't tell me. We're going to find it as we go. I like it. That'll be the fun little thing. Okay. All right, so let's go through it.
So these are boring, and I'll just go through them, and if there's anything worth talking about, I'll mention something. So auto insurance, we pay that every single month. Okay. I use, and that's an annoying one because the amount changes by pennies every month. I don't understand why.
So annoying.
So for most of my targets, I use the set aside another behavior just because that's the easiest. But for this one, I don't like accumulating a few extra cents throughout the year. So I just do what's the other one?
Fill up to thing.
Fill up to, yes, refill up to.
Okay.
And then we've got eating out. This is a weekly target. We eat out as a family every Friday night. And actually, I just upped that a little bit. I should have upped it way more, but I just couldn't bring myself to actually deal with reality. I was looking at our average spend and I was like, whoa. So
the boys keep getting older.
Yeah. They keep adding patties on those hamburgers.
Oh, I see.
Give me the quadruple burger.
You probably wish they had never discovered that was an option.
Completely. And then we have electric. So I'm in Wisconsin. We have really low energy summers and really high bills in the winter. So that is a set aside another. And I am heavily monitoring that average spent.
Do you have oil heat? Or is it?
No, it's natural gas, electric.
Natural gas. Okay. And electric. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm heavily monitoring that average spend number so that I can get my target right on, because I want to make sure by the time winter comes around, I have a good reserve that I can spend through all the way through, February through March. Gas, HRV. So this is our vehicle loan. And kind of a long story here. I'll make it short. But we had a basically brand new Toyota Corolla. And Christy was rear-ended, just bumped. It was like a grandma's kiss.
Okay.
But it did a ton of damage.
Really?
Like,
what a bummer.
And these vehicles are just filled with technology, especially the hybrids. And so the insurance company just totaled it out. So we got this big lump sum check.
Just from a bump.
Just from a bump.
Wow.
And of course, we're like, well, let's upgrade. So
sure.
We bought an HRV. And we we had a really good sized down payment on that because of that insurance payout. But I took out a little bit of a loan because in the back of my mind, I knew that the new year, so we did this was the end of 2024. I knew in 2025, there was going to be a lot of dental expenses across the entire family. Mm-hmm. And I was really hoping that we could kind of cash flow those through our flexible spending account and through our regular medical category. But I also knew there's this chance it was going to go above and beyond that. So I held back some of that insurance payout money for this exact reason. So that category had a chunk of money, and I've talked about this in past episodes, throughout pretty much the entire year. It was just this extra cash. It was earmarked to pay the vehicle down, but it gave me options. And I'm really, really glad I did that because I did end up using some of that for the dental expenses. And it just made me feel better about the whole experience.
Yeah. And you don't mind the loan. And it's good to have the option.
Right. It was a really low interest rate. And, using a couple $1,000s towards dental expenses instead of paying off the loan, like really doesn't make that big of a difference. So I was totally comfortable with that. And now we're through those dental expenses. And what I've been doing is just every month slowly paying down that surplus. So I didn't just send it all at once. I'm doing it in these bigger chunks, and I'm going to make the final big chunk payment this month. And then hopefully in 2026, we can knock out the rest of that HRV loan.
How do you decide? Because there's a dynamic where it's just like you have this chunk of change and you could pay it on the loan, but you want to have the options. But like, how do you decide when to start just sending it to the loan? Because there's always something that could come up, right?
Well, that's the thing. And the original plan was this money is earmarked to pay down the loan and for dental expenses. So once we got through all the dental expenses, I basically just had to force myself because I could have said, yeah, there's always going to be something and just held on to it forever. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to do that because I knew part of the purpose of this was to help pay off that loan a little bit faster.
Yeah. So you just kind of had, we're going to, we have this particular thing on the horizon and we'll get through that.
Yes.
And have the options for that. And then we'll move on from there. I think that's good because at a certain point, you just got to decide,
Well, and the other thing that made that decision easy is I'm regularly saving, and you'll see this in a moment, for a whole bunch of other non-monthly expenses.
Right. And you could always change your mind on those. Yeah.
Exactly. So just kind of looking at the totality of where we were at with cash, I just felt good with starting to make those payments and make the last one this month.
There you go.
All right, then there's generosity. Groceries. Groceries, that's just a monthly amount. I used to do weekly, but now it's just a monthly amount, and that includes household items. Okay. So I've been doing this for so long. I got to the point where I felt really dialed in on this much is for food, this much is for household items. Let's just lump them together because I don't care about that breakdown anymore.
So you don't have to do that split transaction anymore.
Oh my goodness. Like, I remember when I came to YNAB, I loved split transactions. I thought they were the best thing ever. And then now now I'm just kind of sick of them. So it was really nice being able to go to Costco, be able to go to Woodman's and just have one single transaction.
That's nice.
Internet, medical. So medical, we have a flexible spending account through Christie's employer. Okay. And that actually covers a good chunk of our medical expenses every year. But I still put a little bit in medical every single month because there are years like this year where we go above and beyond that and we need something. Right. And boy, I cannot wait until the new year and we get that new flexible spending amount because this category has been busy this year.
Wow. So you get like a chunk of change all at once into that account?
Well, no, we have to send in these reimbursements, but it is all available as of the 1st.
I see.
Which is nice.
So you're kind of hanging on. It's running on fumes here.
Actually, we ended up spending that by July. So
wow. Yeah, it sounds like my year last year. It was just everybody had to go to the hospital. So.
Yep. Those years happen. I'm sure next year it'll be something else. Everything with the house will go wrong or something.
Right. It's something like that. Yeah. There's always something.
All right. Then we got the mortgage category, phones, retirement. So this is post-tax. Christy and I just, most of our retirement is through our employer 401s. But we do put a little something towards our Roth IRAs. And then we have a subscriptions category as well. So a whole bunch of different subscriptions. And I put a little bit of extra into that because every spring I get a streaming service. I forget what it's called now, but I watch the NBA playoffs with it. Oh,
okay,
Sling TV. That's what it is.
Yeah. You've talked about this before. So it's just like a temporary thing. Is it just for like March Madness, basically?
Yeah, I get it for March Madness. I get it for the NBA playoffs, like 2 months, and then I'm done. And so I'm like, well, why don't we just actually save up for that? And I can just put a little bit extra in my subscriptions every single month. So yeah, pretty straightforward there with the monthly categories.
All right. I'll have a lot to say about subscriptions when it comes to be my turn too, because I've made some changes there as well.
Okay, so now we're into the non-monthlies. These are my absolute favorite categories. They were my favorite when I started YNAB, and they are still my favorite today. And I think they were the favorite. Actually, I know they were the favorite when I came to YNAB because they made me feel like I was actually good with money.
Yeah.
They made me feel like for the first time in my life, I can save up for things. And I can pay for big boy things. Like I can pay for Christmas. I can pay for car repairs. I can pay for home repairs because I was never able to do this in the past. Christy and I, anytime one of these things happened, it felt like a financial emergency. And we were just kind of figuring out a plan in the heated moment. And that was just never fun. It was super stressful. Once we actually acknowledged all of our true expenses, like these are the things we're going to spend money on at some point this year, no matter what. And so let's start saving for them right now. Once we got to that point, everything changed. And even today, like the thrill does not go away of being able to pay for something that I've been saving up for 12 months. Like my Costco membership, I'm going to get to that in a moment, but it's like $137.50 every single year. Small amount of money, right?
Right.
But setting a little bit aside 12 months of the year and then having that pile of cash ready to go in December, like that, I still feel awesome every time.
It's just like, because otherwise, even though in the grand scheme, it's not like a lot of money,
no,
but like you would still have to scramble or like worry, because you're like, well, I wasn't expecting it, right? Because, lo and behold, it happens every December, but I just never thought about it, right?
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is the clarity piece. Yeah. Like, I think if I were honest with myself back in the day, pre-YNAB, I would say, yeah, there's all these things that I don't spend money on every month, but I wouldn't be able to name them. Yeah. Now I know exactly what they are. And there is rarely an expense that comes up that does not fall into one of these categories. So it's like, I know what we have to spend money on. And that clarity, it gives me so much peace of mind.
Yeah. I mean, you have this thing where like before YNAB, I would just kind of like look at the checking account and make decisions just on vibes, And yeah, I think what it is like saving for non-monthlies just kind of, it forces you to admit that your cash flow isn't as like your like free cash flow, like your discretionary spending is not as fat as you think it is because there's all these things that are going to come. And so if you just break it into monthly, it's a little bit of a bummer at first because you're like, well, I kind of have to admit, like, I can't just freely spend this chunk of change. But when it comes time to pay it, like, okay, like take auto maintenance. Nothing makes me feel more awesome, like more like, oh man, I'm so good with money than when I'm on the phone with the mechanic and they have that. It's the worst part of every mechanic's job where they have to tell you it's going to be $1,200, or whatever. And I just say, okay, and they're like, oh, It just makes you feel like, oh man, I'm so good at this, and it feels great.
It does. Okay, so this is kind of a funny thing that I do here in Wisconsin with vehicle registration. I don't know how they do it in Virginia, but we have the month that we originally registered the vehicle, and that never changes. But the year, every year we have to get a new sticker so that the vehicle's registered for that year. So like you can see the month and the year on all these vehicles in Wisconsin. And every so often, I'll see someone who has next year's registration like a month early. And always in the back of my head, I'm like, they have to be a YNABer. Like they have to be. They are ahead of the schedule. Everyone is waiting until the last minute or until the month after to pay their vehicle registration. Those tags get on there late. But no, this person's a month early. They have to be a YNABer.
They know what they're doing, man. They're good with money. Yeah. Okay. Like mine, you can pay for a registration like 3 years at a time if you want, and it's cheaper. Oh, yeah. And so I do that, and I feel so cool when I look at my little tag. It has like 2028 on there or whatever, like, but like you can't do that if you don't have a plan, because like you can't. There's so many things like this too, where it's like, if you pay yearly instead of monthly, you get a discount. Yep. And if you have a plan, you can make that happen, and you can feel good about it because you're saving for it every month. Because to me, so except for coming up with the first time you pay it is tricky. Oh, but then absolutely. From then on, it's no different than having a monthly bill because I set the money aside every month, and so you can take advantage of those little things. You feel great, and you save some money too because companies like it when you pay yearly. So love that.
And that thing you said about feeling the pinch, that is not a joke. Like, I remember that when Christy and I started setting money aside for these things, we were like, oh, we don't have as much fun money now at the end of the month. Yeah. But boy, that trade-off was worth it once we actually started having money to pay for those things when they landed. Loved it.
And it gets easier and easier. You get a new baseline and it just feels normal. So but at first, it's tricky. It takes some time to get there.
It does. Okay, so I don't know if you remember this, Ben, but there was a little experiment that I ran maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, where I took all of the yearly non-monthlies and I combined them. I consolidated them into one category because I was like, well, this is stupid to have a category for one expense per year. So again, this is like minimalist Ernie talking.
This is probably a big part of where the extra categories come from, right? Where you separated all those out.
You're absolutely, because I got to the point where I'm like, no, this is not working. I never got in a pinch financially. There was always money there to pay because in the notes section of that massive category, I had every yearly expense and what the amount was.
Right.
And what I needed to set aside every single month. And I was doing that diligently, but I lost so much clarity.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
So much clarity.
Because I'm still doing this where all my yearly subscriptions or anything I pay yearly is one category. And it seems simpler on its face because it's one category instead of like 10.
Yep.
But you do lose clarity. Like I look at that category and I have a pretty good idea because I've kind of worked it out, but I never know for sure that it's going to work out. But if I had separate categories, I would. So I might consider separating that because that might be better. I don't know.
And I don't know, like it made assigning less fun because I would just dump this like pile of money into this black hole. But now it's very specific, and that just makes me feel really good. Like I sleep better at night knowing all these very specific little emergencies are covered.
And you're reminded what you're paying for. Yeah, you're selling me on this. I might try this. Because you're reminded every time you assign money there, you're like, oh yeah, I'm paying for Prime and I'm paying for, I can't think of a single other yearly expense example. I'm paying for YNAB, like I'm paying for whatever it is. And instead of having it like all tucked away in like a little memo on the category, on a single category, you see it in your plan every time and you're like, yeah, I'm paying for that and I want that. And then, or maybe you look at it and say, oh, I'm paying for that and actually I don't want that anymore. So you get a little more clarity this way. Yeah, there's something to that. I might experiment with that. All right, cool.
All right, let's go through these because there are a lot of them. So first one, activities. This is basically the boys category. So when they sign up for soccer or, I guess they're getting older, so we don't use that as much. Probably not the greatest name. We just, I don't know what to call it.
That makes sense.
Point.
Well, with the soccer ball, it's very clear what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Auto maintenance. Make sure you set aside something there every single month. Christmas. Here's a big change. We have clothing. That's for Christy and I. And we have clothing boys. That's why they have the underwear emoji there.
That's mostly what you're buying. They're going through that.
That just makes me laugh.
So. I think that's funny. Yeah.
But this change actually came from Christy. We've always had one clothing category for the entire family. And she does all the clothes shopping, for me included.
Okay.
And I think she got to the point where she was just sick of not having money in that category for her and I.
Yeah, I could see that because you want to take care of your boys and stuff. And so you end up spending it all and you're just like, because you think about yourself last,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she knows, okay, if there's not money in the category, we can roll with the punches. She's all for that, but still kind of felt a little bit bad when she wanted to buy clothes and saw that there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
So she's like, hey, why don't we separate this out? That way we can protect the money for you and I, so we won't have to roll with the punches as much. And then we can have that separate category for the boys. And we've been doing this for probably 6 months now, and it has worked awesome.
That's good.
I love it.
Well, it's a different kind of need, because for the boys, they need to be replaced a lot more often because they're rougher on them and they're growing. And for you guys, it's, you might want something a little nicer because it's actually, there's no point in buying, a nice shirt for the boys and they're going to grow out of it. So, but for you, it's it's just a different kind of expense, even though it's all clothes, So I think it makes sense to separate it.
Yeah, we took a small trip this fall up north. We were in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, out at a cabin, and we went to this museum, and Christy found this hoodie that she just loved. And she's like, "Oh, I really want to buy this," and I'm like, "Just do it! We have the money in this clothing category. Do it. Buy the hoodie," and she did.
I love that. Yeah. Otherwise, she'd be thinking "Oh, but what if the boys need it?" And don't have to worry about that. It's all set.
Yep. All right, then we have a college category. This is for Charlie. He's a sophomore at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. And so we get a little bit of help from my dad, his grandpa, and then we contribute a little bit as well. So that's just kind of to pay for food and books and things like that. Then there's my Costco category. This is just for the Costco membership. And of course, it has the heart emoji.
Your best bud.
Yeah, my
if
best
Costco
bud.
was a person, it'd be your best friend.
Seriously, it would be.
It's all Chipotle in Costco for you.
Christy she doesn't get this. She's like, why do you go to Costco every single week? That just sounds miserable. And I'm like, it isn't. When I step foot in that parking lot, my heart just lights up. A smile comes across my face, and I feel like a different person.
In there.
I
do you get the hot dog, the famous $1.50 hot dog thing? Do you do that?
I just bought one the other day. I don't do that regularly just because it's not good for my heart.
Sure.
But I went there to buy their chicken Caesar salad, and it wasn't there any longer.
Oh no, the tragedy.
I heard they're on recall, so I don't know if they're going to come back, and they replaced it with this other garden salad. And I just, it wasn't the same. So I ended up going with the hot dog. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. All
so
right.
that is $137.15 every year. It's $11.43 every single month.
Cool.
Pennies. But I just love setting that amount aside.
Yeah. Love that.
Okay, Eero, that is our mesh network security. That's $99 a year. We get value out of that, so we do that. Garbage, that's every 3 months. Gifts, so that's all the birthdays, non-Christmas gift buying that we do.
I'm sorry, I have to ask about what's with the emoji on Eero? It looks like a Bible or something.
Let's see, what is What is that?
It looks like a little cross.
It does look like a cross. Let me bring up my emoji keyboard. I'm going to type in security. No, what is that?
Because I'm like, what's this got to do with mesh fiber?
What is that?
I am so curious right now.
Okay, let's see. It's not security.
I'm looking it up too. Guys, we have an emoji hunt.
I'm just typing stuff into my emoji search bar here.
We might have to get the community to help us figure out what this emoji is.
Oh my goodness, what is that? Block. I have no idea.
I don't know either. I'm objects. Looking at objects. No. There's so many emojis now. You ever scroll through the emojis and you're like, why are there so many?
It is annoying. Have you ever gone through the custom emojis in YNAB Slack?
Oh my gosh.
Because there are so many good ones that I forget about them, and every so often I'm like, oh, let's refresh my memory.
I should go through it. So if you don't know, on Slack, which is like a messaging service that a lot of companies use, you can create custom emojis, and we have so many. Because sometimes the one I wish was real and I could use elsewhere is it's like a half sobbing emoji, half laughing emoji, because it's like something is funny but also really sad. I use that all the time. It's very helpful. All right, well, we don't know what this emoji is.
I found it.
You found it. Okay,
and now it makes complete sense. It's a level slider.
A level slider. Oh, I see it. Okay, it looks like a cross. Okay.
And you know what I think I probably did is I probably honestly went to ChatGPT and I said, here's this category. Give me some emojis I could put on it.
I wouldn't know what to put for that. It's like a mesh. Yeah. That's a whole thing. Okay, that's so funny. I'm so glad we took the time to figure out what that was, because I was so curious. It's like, why is that?
Well, this is Budget Nerds, so that's what we do on this show.
Exactly. All right.
Okay, then there's Google One. This is our storage, and this is probably the smallest target we have. It's $2.50 every single month.
I love that. It's funny. I have the Apple storage iCloud, and it's 99 cents a month. And I'm like, if I separated out of categories, would I have a category just for that? And I feel like I should, because that'd be really funny. It'd just be funny.
Absolutely.
Right now it's all wrapped up in monthly bills or whatever. But that would be funny.
It totally would.
I kind of love that. Okay.
Haircuts, home goods. So this is stuff like replacing the rugs, replacing towels, durable type stuff. Home insurance.
There you go.
That is a yearly expense. All right, so now we're on
there's
page
a whole other. Oh, okay. You were like, there's a lot of these, and I'm like, there's not that many, and then there's a whole other screenshot. I purposely
pages.
Didn't look at this before we started because I wanted to be totally fresh. So okay, all right, we got more. Let's go.
Home maintenance,
of course.
Hyatt annual fees. So this is the credit cards that we pay for. I think it's $95 per card. Life insurance, that is a yearly, and this is one of those categories where, because of YNAB, I was able to save money. For most of my adult life, I was paying for this monthly. And then they're like, oh, if you pay every 6 months, you can save a little bit of money on your premium. And I'm like, oh, with YNAB, well, I've got that money. I've been saving up, so let's switch to 6 months. And then eventually I switched to the year and I saved even more. Never would have been able to do that pre-YNAB.
I should look into this because... yeah, my insurance, I never really got the option, but I bet there is an option if I looked into it. So I pay monthly for mine. So, and I like the emoji here because it is death insurance. That's all marketing, calling it life insurance, right?
Right.
So there you go. All right.
Massage. So I love this category, and the budget nerds of the community are really going to appreciate this. And this is something that I can see you doing as well, Ben, where for a long time, I was paying for my massage out of my personal money because I was the only one in the family getting a massage. And it just, I don't know, it didn't sit right with me that I was pulling a large amount of money every 3 months from our medical category.
Yeah, totally.
And then Christy started wanting to get regular massages as well.
There you go.
And she's like, how are we going to pay for this? And I'm like, well, I've been paying for it with my personal money, but if you want to do this as well, we'll just make a change to the whole plan.
Great.
So I'm like, let's make a category for the both of us. That way I don't have to spend my personal money on this anymore. And we can just make changes from other categories and make this category work for just you and I. And so now every 3 months, we both get a massage.
That is such a YNABing with a partner thing where it's just like,
yes,
it's the same thing. You're still paying for the massage, but like not paying it out of your personal, like we just compartmentalize this money. It's all made up. It's all a bunch of nonsense, but like it makes a big difference for you, you know?
Yes, it really does.
It's so funny.
Okay, property taxes. Okay, there's a funny story here with this one. We always joke about property taxes. We don't escrow. So I'm setting money aside for property taxes myself. And then it's always a challenge of how close can I get? Yeah. Well, the property bill arrived the other week. And actually, Ben,
did you get it?
I made a video for you.
No way.
Where I saw the mailman come up and I knew the property bill was going to be in the mailbox because I get an email telling me what's coming that day. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to turn on the camera and make a video for Ben. So I was making supper.
Is this like before you opened it? You like started
before
recording?
I opened it. I was just like, live streaming this whole event. And, it's freezing cold out and it was also really, really dark. And I'm walking out there. I think I had my apron on that I was cooking in. Mm-hmm. And I walk down to the driveway and there's a whole bunch of mail and I'm fumbling around. I end up shutting off the video. Then I have to start a new video. It's dark. I'm opening the wrong letters. I get letters mixed up. And the camera is going all over the place. And I'm like, this is so stupid. I just turned it off. And I'm like, I'll just tell Ben live on Budget Nerds the result of my property taxes.
That's fine. Okay, so there's no video because, I get it. You're fumbling. Yeah.
I'm a typical 47-year-old person using a smartphone.
That's fine. How'd it go?
But I was $135, $137 short.
Oh, curses.
So I did not do a very good job.
Dude, I was so mad at the bank for getting it wrong every year, and then I got it wrong every year. So
I know.
It's just, I don't know what it is. Like my city council is a bit of a mess. It's small town drama. Like they don't know what they're doing. And it's like a will they won't they all year. Are they going to lower the taxes, the property taxes? Are they going to increase it? And so like I just couldn't follow it anymore. I didn't care. I'm like, just tell me what it's going to be. Like I don't care. I'll pay whatever the tax. I like schools. I like roads. Like I'll pay for it. It's fine. It's just like I just tell me what it is, and I couldn't follow it anymore. So I just gave up, and I'm always slightly off because of it. So, oh man, it's a mess.
What I did for next year is I threw the last 5 years of property taxes into ChatGPT, and I told it, tell me what it's going to be for 2026. Like, give me your best prediction.
Okay.
And that's what I'm running with.
Yeah.
So
you just got to pick a number and go with it at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew? Because I think property tax is like, oh, this is going to be very steady and boring, and it's just not. It changes all the time. So.
Changes all the time. And again, the purpose here isn't, if you're just joining the YNAB community, like the purpose isn't to predict the right amount in these categories.
No, but it's fun.
It's very, very fun. And when you're a budget nerd, it's something you look forward to. So I can't wait to see what next year brings.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, reimbursements.
Okay. Yeah, reimbursements, it is what it is. Occasionally.
I need this. Yeah, because I usually just put, the only time I reimburse is for travel. And I just put it on the travel category, but I feel like a separate reimbursements category would be a good way to go.
And that was the exact reasoning I created a separate category for it as well. Yeah. So school, right now we only have one kid in high school and he only has 1.5 years left. So we won't need that category much longer.
That's exciting.
Snow removal. Oh, this is a fun story. So
that's something I need. As I speak, we are covered in snow right now, and I don't think you guys are you?
No, we are. We've had
okay.
We were 4 or 5 inches deep already.
That's right. You did get a lot. Yeah, we have a lot of snow right now, but yeah, it's not hard to remove here. So, okay, tell me your story.
Well, yeah, here's the story. So a year ago, I got a marketing message in the mail that I couldn't refuse. It was a flat fee for our driveway. They didn't do sidewalks and we don't have any. So I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And it was they covered up to 60 inches for the entire year, and they would come anytime there was 1 inch or more. And I'm like, hey, that is very affordable and it's peace of mind. I don't have to worry about when it snows.
Yeah.
And so I did it and I loved it. But what I didn't realize, Ridge, our dog, did not love it. He just would freak out every time.
Well, you're getting invaded. Like there's strangers here.
And they've got flashy lights and they're really loud and they come at the worst hours of the night, which I'm not blaming them. I would do the same thing if that was my company.
At night. Oh,
but
no.
Yeah, for most dogs, it works, but for Ridge, it doesn't. And so this year, I got that same flyer. It was the same price. I'd been setting money aside all year for this exact moment. And so now I had a decision to make. I had the money sitting in the category. So I'm like, hey, I could easily pay for it again. But I'm like, the stress of Ridge barking at the plow is greater than the stress of having to shovel myself.
Wow. So was it worth it to you?
It just became, it became very evident that this is not worth it to me, which was kind of fun because I don't mind shoveling.
Yeah.
And I had an extra $435 in that category.
Okay.
And so now we get to do something else with that money.
Is that per year? Is it that much per year?
Per season, yeah.
Dang, yeah, that's a chunk of change. And
and actually, I thought it was pretty reasonable. So,
wow. Yeah, I have no context, so that's wild.
Yeah, but that was just kind of one of those things where you save up the money and then you look at that amount and you're like, do I really want to spend this money? And I think most times YNABers say, yeah, absolutely. But sometimes, there's a little pause. And I think it's good to kind of sit on, well, why am I feeling that hesitation?
Yeah, that's good.
Stuff. That's just like our catch-all category.
Stuff. I like this.
So, I don't know. Yeah, and then it's just that dude shrugging.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's just a miscellaneous.
Summer vacay. Here is another big change that we've made. So for the longest time, we just had one trips category. It would pay for the summer vacation and it would pay for random trips that Christy and I would take and the boys that we would take throughout the year. And I realized after doing this for many years, I lost a lot of clarity on summer vacation spending. And so a lot of times we would have to make some pretty drastic changes immediately leading up to summer vacation where we realized, there's not quite enough money. So hey, we have to use this extra paycheck or this bonus or something like that, which that's fine, but it would have been nice to use that for some like really, really fun stuff, some extra stuff. And so we just decided let's be better at planning for actual summer vacation.
I like that. Yeah.
And then let's be very specific about planning for actual little trips here and there. So we separated those two out, and boy, have I loved the additional clarity.
I like that. Yeah, I'm the same thing. Like when it comes time to save for a trip, like a big summer vacation for the family, it's a separate thing. Like it's a new category and you got to make changes. But it's you're right. It's a non-monthly expense. I'm not really embracing. You weren't. I'm not doing it either. So yeah, that would be helpful. I'm gonna think about that too. I gotta write these down, Ernie. This is good.
Well, you can always go back and watch the recording.
That's true.
But I think what this also gives me is better data moving forward. Or actually, I should say it gives me easier access to the data. Because what I would have to do in the past is I would have to put a memo and then go back and like select all those transactions to get how much I spent and adjust my target. But now I can kind of look at that average spend number and just kind of adjust our target based on that.
Yeah. Although I will say, a feature alert, it feel like just slid right in there. We can bulk edit memos now on the web app. Do you know that?
What?
Yeah, it just slid in there like a week ago. Like they're just like,
I completely missed that, man.
I know the developers
you can
are just
select multiple transactions and add the same memo to all of them.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Brand new, just came in, and it's like I feel like we didn't announce it because it's not like it's not something that most people are going to be that excited about. But Yeah, check it out. You can do it on the only on the web app right now, I think. So it's pretty cool.
That is amazing. And I know there's other budget nerds out there that are like me, where my memos have to be precise. Like it has to. So on vacation, like if we went to Grand Rapids, Minnesota, it would have to be Grand Rapids, Minnesota. And they would all have to be capitalized the exact same way. So if one wasn't capitalized, I would go back and capitalize it so that matches all the other memos on the other transactions. But now
you can just do it all once.
I can standardize it with just a few clicks. I love that.
Yeah. I'm so glad I got to tell you about a new feature. Because, we didn't really talk about it. It was just kind of, I think it's just something that's in there under the radar. So, yeah, pretty cool.
All right, then there's taxes. This is for taxed software. So I do our taxes and I do the boys' taxes every single year. Small amounts, but I make sure I set aside that monthly. Tech replacement. I just added this. I added it immediately after our interview with Lauren, where we were talking about using YNAB as a single person.
We talked about that, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, she had the tech replacement category, and then a light bulb just went off, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, because we're constantly buying cables and charging things.
Yeah,
and
little things.
Just little things. And I was putting them in stuff, but I don't know, I like the tech replacement a lot better.
It's nice.
There's trips, we talked about that. Vehicle registration, we talked about that a little bit. And then just finally water and yard.
And of course you have the little scissor emoji for the yard.
Right. So this is an inside joke. I did this presentation for the company years ago.
Many years ago.
And for some reason, the only thing that my coworkers remember is that I cut my grass with scissors.
Well, because you did it in the video. You were like cutting the grass with
Except that wasn't even in the video.
Oh, it was? That's what I remember. Well, I have a clear image of you cutting the grass.
Well, here's the thing. I was using a hand trimmer. I wasn't using scissors. I was using hand trimmer, or I think there's a specific name. I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's designed for edging lawns. And so, there was a clip of me doing that, and then I don't know, somehow it turned into Ernie cuts his entire 5,000 square foot yard with these.
I think so. It's one of those things like somebody made a joke, like, "Oh man, Ernie cuts his whole lawn with scissors," and then and then it just became true.
And I don't even bother, correcting people now when they bring it up.
That are like company inside joke made it into your plan like that. That's so fun.
All right, let's move on to the fun category.
All right, let's do it.
Do you notice anything with this group, Ben?
Well, we got a caterpillar, which is interesting. We got it's. Oh, you're not here. Your boys are here. Christy's here. Where are you? Why don't you?
Okay, that's observation number 1.
Okay,
there's something else going on in this group.
Oh, 2 emojis.
Emojis
next to Christy. Okay,
yes,
but they're the same emoji. All right, what's the story there?
She added those emojis to her category.
And
I was like, I have only one category on everything. So you're kind of out of line here.
You're like, how dare you? I had a system.
Seriously, like, hey, I want you to participate, but I want you to participate verbally. I don't want you to actually mess with the software.
But this is literally her category. So
it's hers. And so I'm like, okay, I will make an exception. You are the only category in the entire plan that gets 2 categories. You are that special.
But is there a limit? Like, what if Christy today decided to rename that and she put like 10 emojis in there? What would you do?
Boy. I would make a stink about it, but she's like, Ernie, you know that I can do whatever I want, right? And I'd be like, yes, I know. Okay, fine.
I love it. That's so funny. Okay, so Christy gets 2 hearts instead of 1.
She gets 2, yeah. And these are the fun money categories. So Charlie, which he has his own checking account, so that is pretty much just his reimbursement category now. And the same is true for Manny. Simeon, he's our youngest. He doesn't have his own checking account, so we are doing all of his spending for him. We're using our credit cards. So this is one of those cases where it's, budget nerds approved to have a matchy, account and category. So he has his account on YNAB and he has his category. And then I just make sure to get those all matched up by the end of the month.
That works. What's with the caterpillar next to Charlie? I'm curious about that.
He loves bugs.
Okay.
He especially loves caterpillars. And I put that emoji has been there for years. He's 20 now, and I don't know if he would choose that, but I always think of him
into caterpillars than he was when he was a little kid.
Yeah, but I just, in my mind, it's always the younger version of our kids, right? So
that's cute. Yeah, I love
that. I keep that there.
Okay.
And then the family category, that's just when we do something 2 or more people. Right? If you do something just yourself, it comes out of your fun money category. If you can bring a kid or you bring your, if Christy brings me with, then we can go into the family category. That's where like, when I feel like coffee, and this is like with the massage category where I'm like, hey, I feel like coffee. Would I rather spend from my own category or would I rather bring Christy in and then we can just throw it in the family category?
Exactly. It's a whole different thing. Yeah, and it feels like you're cheating somehow, but you're not. You're like, I got my coffee for free. You didn't.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing. All right.
Okay,
and you're not here because
I'm not here.
You have your own group, don't you? That's what
I have my own group, so we're gonna get that in a second. We actually have Ridge's group first.
Okay, we got Ridge.
Here's another big change. So Ridge is our dog. He's a 3-year-old golden doodle, and my does he have some energy, but. For the longest time, we just had one category. And it got to the point where it just got away from me. There was zero clarity around how much we actually needed every month to sustain Ridge. And then there was just zero confidence in what we were spending and what we were assigning and even planning future spending. Like I was lost. So yeah. I really needed to break out the categories, and this helped immensely. So we have food and treats, pot of cures. I thought that was cute.
Pot of cures. That's cute. Love that.
And actually, I ripped that straight off from the YNAB Pets template.
Oh, really? Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay.
Pet insurance, supplies, toys and fun, training, vet, and meds.
Perfect. Love it.
Now, the downside of breaking this out is I realized we need to set way more money aside for Ridge. And that's just never fun, right? Because it means a trade-off. It means less money for other areas. But man, being realistic is just so good for my mental health. Like, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because there were so many instances where we would roll with the punches in the moment. Like we would spend way more in the singular category than what we had. And I would get super frustrated. I'm like, why is this dog so expensive?
Right.
Because I was like charged up. I was emotionally charged in that moment.
Because you had to move money. It felt like maybe even more expensive than it was because it was outside the plan, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But when I would kind of do it from a neutral frame of mind, like we're assigning money, I'm just, okay, let's be realistic about the dog expenses. We know these are coming this month, break them out, assign exactly what we need. I didn't care. I'm like, oh, this is how much the dog costs. And yeah, it's kind of expensive, but you know what? That's just the way it is.
That is so interesting. Yeah, it makes sense. You just admit, like, yeah, this is what this costs. And this is... And you take action, and yeah, it just makes everything a little more chill. I love that.
Yeah, but in the heat of the moment, having to make changes, like it's good for the plan, but it just was really frustrating for me mentally. So
yeah, I like that.
That was super helpful.
Much better way to do it. Okay.
I'm
looking forward to this. Whole category group just for Ernie here.
Just for me. This is a change I made about a year and a half ago. And I made the change because I got super specific about what I actually wanted to spend my money on.
Nice.
And it just kind of happened.
Your personal spending specifically, right?
My personal spending specifically, because in the past it was just all one category, and I was like, okay, let's go to a Vikings game this year, and let's buy Chipotle every single Wednesday during lunch, and let's do, go golfing over here. And I always had enough. But then, there was this, I remember this moment very vividly. I was coming back from a Vikings game and I was like, man, that was like really, really fun. Like I really enjoyed that. And I want to make this a priority every single year. So let's create a category just for sporting events. And I also throw in comedy shows as well. So I turned it into entertainment. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that I'm going to make sure I do every single year, which is great because one of my best friends is actually moving back to the area, and he's already told me, "Hey, let's go to a Timberwolves game as soon as I get to the cities." And so I'm going to be utilizing that. And then I also started golfing more. So I made a specific category for golf. I don't want to completely give up my occasional Chipotle runs or coffee runs, so I have a food and drink category.
I have not been to Chipotle in a long time. I feel like it's gotten too expensive. Like I get on the app and I put in my order and it's like $17 or something. I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Okay, yeah, you just got to keep it simple. Like if you just go a single order of chicken and no extras, I get my burrito for about $9 here in the Midwest.
All right, I'm gonna do it. Maybe mine's different. We'll do an experiment after. I'll see because I'm just like I can't do this. I don't know. Even if it's like $13, it's just like. I don't know. For some reason, I've scrutinized that more than other expenses, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. All right, anyways.
But yeah, seriously, I used to eat out like every Wednesday for lunch. It just kind of became a thing where Charlie was at school. The other two boys at the time were homeschooled, and they would walk the neighbor dog. And so it was just me at home, and it was a good time to go out, grab a burrito, and just kind of take a little break midweek. But then when I separated these categories out, it just became so clear to me that I want money for golf and sporting events.
I love that. Yeah.
That is what I'm saving for. And I stopped eating out personally way less.
Interesting.
Like significantly less. And it didn't even bother me. Like I do not miss it because I know it means more money for sporting events. It means more money for golf next summer.
Yeah, you made the trade-off. Yeah, maybe I should do this too because Caitlin has a big, long category group. Like she treats her personal spending category almost like her personal ready to assign. Like I put the money in there at the beginning of the month and then she takes almost all of it out and breaks it out into all these categories. And but I really just do the one category and then I have another category for poker, which is like one of my main hobbies. But yeah, I think if I separate it out, especially food and drink, that might reveal some things to me. So I might try this too. I'm gonna write down all sorts of things here, Ernie. This is good.
And this has been interesting too. Like for the longest time, because Christy and I would kind of always have this little game of who has more money in their fun money category.
Oh yeah.
Christy constantly had more than me.
Right.
Now I have way more than her.
Well, because you're saving for these sporting events and golf.
Yes,
and yeah.
I have way more. So, and I think it's just because I got crystal clear on exactly what I want my money to do. Now, eventually I'm going to spend that money. It's just right now I'm kind of in a season where, I can't golf because there's snow on the ground. And already went to a Vikings game this year. So
it's a funny dynamic when you're doing this with a partner. You have like a personal spending for each. And it's almost like another layer of giving every dollar a job, because like you have to give your personal spending a job as well. So like when do you have like a set amount that you put into all these categories or do you separate it out and change it every month?
I do. So we each get $100 every single month.
Okay.
And then I just divide that 100 across those categories, not evenly, but yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool.
And then I have a random category that's just for, every so often I'll get an Audible subscription when a really good deal comes through or, there's something just out of the blue that I want to buy. Perfect. I like having a little bit extra there.
All right.
Okay.
Last one.
One more category.
The burial plot.
Or one more group.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. So we got goals here, right?
Yeah, these are the goals. And let me take a little bit of time. So these are the things that are basically outside of the plan.
Okay, so you don't fund these every month necessarily.
I don't fund these every single month. In fact, this question came up, I don't know if you saw it on one of our videos recently, Ben, where I made the comment in a video that I don't fund all of my categories every single month. And this YNABer was asking, well, then how do you think about month ahead? Like what categories are included in being a full month ahead? And I think I said something to the effect of, everything that I could possibly spend money on in a month that has a legitimate chance of me spending money on is included in my month ahead plan.
Right.
So for me, it's all the categories except the categories in this goals group.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to spend money on any of these this month for certain.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And there's a lot of them here, and I'm not really serious about any of them. And so and then once I get to the point where Christy and I are serious about saving for something, then we will move it to somewhere else in the plan, and it becomes part of the category groups that get funded every single month.
That makes sense. It's kind
Does
of
that
like
make sense?
like it's like a wish list with the wish farm paradigm. It's kind of like that where you have like a big long list of things that you want to go for. But maybe these are a little more serious. Like, you really want to go after these at some point soonish. And then you actually start funding it regularly when you can.
Yeah. So some months, the categories will get as little as $0 or, $5. Sometimes they'll get a little bit more. Some months we will then pull that money back and use it for something else. So yeah, we're not really super serious about any of them right now. I guess maybe the senior year 2027, that's Simeon's graduation party. But even that is like
it's
a year and a half away.
Right. You got some time. Yeah.
So okay, let's just go through these.
These are so sweet. Okay, I'm gonna let you go through it yourself. I just see a few I really want to talk about. So
we got the burial plots. I mentioned those. Christy just out of the blue. I don't know what she's thinking, but she's like, "Hey,
we're gonna die
start
soon.
saving for these."
You get in your
or like, Ernie, I have something planned for you.
You get into your late 40s and you're just like, well, this is it. Time to start saving for this.
Yeah, I guess that's what the bonus will go towards. Job loss. And we talked about this, like, for YNABers, this is your emergency fund.
Yeah.
Because you've figured out all the other possible emergencies. And we talked about this a little bit with Lauren, where, and I didn't realize this until we had her on the show, where, Lauren, a single YNABer, she has to take her job loss category a lot more seriously.
Right.
Because it's just her.
It's just her.
But
more risk.
Christy and I are both full-time, have full-time jobs. And so there's not really an urgency to get that with 3 months of wages. But we do try to put a little bit in there every single month.
That's good.
Driver's ed, we've got one more kid, Simeon, waiting for his license. House remodel. This is one of those categories where we do the parade of homes every single year.
Oh, right.
And you look at all these new beautiful homes and you're like, yeah, we're going to do a massive remodel. You go home, you make a category, and then it never sees any money.
You get excited in the moment, but it doesn't last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And actually that would be the same for the patio category at the bottom. We had an Airbnb on vacation this year when we were in Iowa. And they had this amazing patio. It was like a 3-season patio. And we're like, and we have a similar space at our place. And we're like, we could do something like this at our house. Like, yeah, let's do it. And like, I got out a notebook. We started sketching plans and writing little notes of what we want and like made a category. It doesn't have a single penny to its name.
Well, that's what's so great about this. Like, you get excited about something, put it in your plan and see if it kind of attracts money. Because that's when you know if you actually care about it or not, because then you're literally putting money on it. Right. So I think that's great. Just like leave it there and maybe it'll come around again. You might wake up and be like, I want that patio, so
totally. And we still do talk about it every so often. So who knows? Okay. Then we have mom and dad 50th. So my parents are celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2026.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And it kind of caught me off guard. And as soon as my parents told me that, I was like, I should do something. I'm the oldest of 3. And I'm like, hey, yeah, let's do something for mom and dad. And I kind of floated the idea to them over Thanksgiving. And my mom was like, oh, no, we're not really like big party kind of people.
Sure.
Like we don't want to be in the limelight. And I was like, okay, well, I'm glad I asked.
Right.
So this has been tamed down a little bit. Instead of setting money aside for this big celebration, Christy and I decided we're just going to take them out to dinner.
Okay.
And my mom listens to all these episodes. Mom, this is not a surprise, so you can know this.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to take you and Dad out to dinner. We'll go to Johnny's Steakhouse, and we'll completely pay for your meal. So we're setting a little bit aside of that.
That's nice. And I love that you're setting aside, like you're thinking toward it, and you have it in your plan. And yeah, that's
right,
really
because
sweet.
I think it's another one of those, just like intentionality things with YNAB where, sure, we could in the moment afford a dinner for 7 people at a nice steakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to set money aside every single month. Like I want to intentionally think through this and just, I don't know.
Well, you're looking forward to it, and
yeah,
that's special.
Yeah.
So is this you telling your mom that you're doing this? Like, have you talked to her about it before?
Well, we talked about the party when she said, let's not do that, Ernie. But, and I didn't tell her specifically. I might have said something like, oh, well, we'll just take you out for dinner. But
well,
either way, it doesn't need to be a surprise because they don't like surprises. So,
well, hi, Mom. That's really sweet. I love that. All right.
Then we have the new vehicle. I've just always kept this because eventually we're going to need a new vehicle.
Yeah.
That has no money in it right now. And it's one of those things where once we get to the point where we realize, okay, now we have a plan in place for that next vehicle, let's start actively saving for it every single month.
Good deal.
Passports. This is one of those other pipe dreams. We're like, man, we really need to update these for ourselves and for the boys. I think it has like $10 in it, but again, it's a wish list thing. So it's like let's try to keep this top of mind, so eventually we can make a movement on it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just like, it's paperwork, blah, but it's got to be done, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And my goodness, that is it, Ben. I've talked more in this episode than I have in all the episodes previously combined.
Good. Well, it's good. It's good. You can catch up a little bit because I talk too much. So. I love it. Yeah, this is great.
That's my new plan.
Okay.
Yeah, 72 categories, 7 groups, and probably more insight than anyone was hoping for.
That's great. Yeah, you've given me a lot of ideas. I probably won't do any of them because I never changed my plan, but I'm going to think about it for a while. You know what? I'm going to do it. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So Ben is going to be doing his categories in 2 episodes from now.
I need to do that actually 3 episodes from now because we have the live stream coming up soon as well, right? So, no.
Well,
we got to time travel. The
right.
live stream is before this one comes out. Yeah. Anyways, you guys don't care.
Yes.
It breaks my brain every time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, before we let you go, I know this episode's been long, but we want to get in a couple YNAB wins for a couple reasons. 1, we love sharing YNAB wins, but 2, Tristan made us a new YNAB wins animation.
There it is.
So we have to show off his amazing work. So be sure to check that out and check out these 2 YNAB wins.
Wanna make it.
All right. I have one from Tori who wrote in on an email. Tori said, this past year, we have been navigating getting services for our child who has some special education needs, which has involved a lot of out-of-network and therefore mostly out-of-pocket therapies, evaluations, and visits with many costly professionals. Using YNAB, we were able to really prioritize our spending and cash flow, all of these expenses, while also maxing out our IRAs for the first time. Yay. Hey, that's cool. Having a clear picture of how we were going to afford the services was incredibly helpful during a time that weighed on us emotionally as well. Our son is thriving with all the help we've been able to secure for him. And now that we've got his education sorted out, we are able to focus on our next goal of saving for a house. Ah, Tori, that's awesome. Because, yeah, you're taking care of your son, and it costs more than you thought, and it's really, I can only imagine. It's so emotional, and it's I mean, because it's just all the work of getting people to come and meet with you and do all that, but also it's just emotionally charged because it's your kid, and you didn't have to worry about the money. So that's awesome. Love that.
Yeah, I know this one. Navigating those services is intense. That is no joke. And so not to have to worry about money in those moments, that is huge. So so happy for you, Tori. This is a fantastic win.
Love that.
My win comes from Tim S. He emailed a long time ago, and this was a really long win, so I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit, and then we'll kind of I'll get to the gist of what his is. So backstory here, Tim tried another app, didn't like how it focused on looking backwards. He found YNAB and he binged Us, Hannah, and Sketchy Advice.
Love it.
Here's his win. This year was expensive. So far, we've managed to stay out of debt despite, in the spring, buying a house and moving again. April through December, 5 separate visits from family, international, all of which involved some travel on our part. October, a 3-week trip back to the U.S. from the UK to visit family. October, unexpectedly needing to replace the fence in our backyard, which then unexpectedly snowballed into related digging and reshaping the area just beyond our house to reduce flooding.
Of course.
November, unexpected needing to replace the wood-burning stove, which is needed to heat a quarter of the house.
Wow.
November, unexpected visa expenses. We've been saving for our October trip for an entire year and managed to roll with the punches for the major house expenses this fall, drawing on what we have been saving for true expenses. But now we need to keep a very tight budget for the next half year to build up for when the true expenses come due. I still consider this a big YNAB win since we have not had to go into debt or pull from investments. Yes, that is a huge win. You know, you got all these expenses either that you have to pay for right now or you know they're coming up, but you've got clarity on what they are. Yeah. And so you can react in the moment to those situations and those future, and that makes you feel so in control.
Yeah, I love that. And even though things are going to need to be tight for a while, you know exactly why, and you know exactly what you spent that money on, and it was worth it. It was all unexpected, and it was quite a year, but it was worth it for you. So that's great. Love that.
All right, friends, if you have a YNAB win, big or small, send it to us, budgetnerds@ynab.com, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube video.
All right. Happy YNABing.
See you next episode.